Much.
Hi, hi, Pragya. Thank you
Yeah.
for having me.
Okay. I hope it works this time before there's some technical issues. Okay. So let me begin with a short introduction about you. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, like I was saying before, you are an author, a very accomplished screenwriter, you're a filmmaker, and you're passionate about creating content about young adults and about women. In 2021, your short film, The Flyman, won the Best Foreign Language Film at the Boston International Kids Film Festival.
yeah,
And you have been through a very painful bout of endometriosis, after which you were told that IVF was the only solution for conceiving,
yeah.
and you decided not to listen to that, and you went on to conceive naturally. So today I wanted to talk to you about the inward journey that you said you actually went on, hoping to, which helped you gain clarity, and which also like helped you in advocating for yourself, to all these medical professionals, and just self belief about your health and your health issues.
Yeah.
And so we'll specifically be talking about like the practices that helped you. You spoke about a book that you read, and that really had an impact on you. So we'll be talking
Yeah.
about all of that, and
Right.
basically how you looked at your illness in a positive way. That it was not something that was a punishment for you, but but something that really was trying to communicate with you. Illness is a friend, is what we're calling this session. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we spoke about your journey, you described the endometriosis diagnosis, and how you like what the pain that there was, when you realized that you had endometriosis. So can you talk a little bit about that? Like, how did you find out that you had endometriosis? The
Mhm.
process of getting rid of it, treating
Yeah.
it, and then how did it make you feel when doctors said, okay, now IVF is the only solution? So just like recap it for everybody.
Yeah. Sure. Just before I begin, do you want to share the new streaming link on your IG? Is it possible for you to do that? Because I think you've shared the old streaming link for everyone to join.
Okay, so let me try.
Or should we not jinx it? Should we just continue and maybe later
let,
share this whole?
let me just try. If it looks a little iffy, then I won't. But there's a share button, so let me try. Yeah?
Okay. Okay,
Okay,
great.
so I'm going to share. And it says Instagram, so I'm going to just click on Instagram. It won't, it'll just let me send it to like a bunch of people as a personal message.
Okay.
What I could try to do is perhaps
Just the stream. You can't go out on Instagram and share the streaming link separately.
I could try. Like then, should I try? Let's see.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, we don't have anyone here right now, so we might as well. I don't think anyone's there, right?
yeah, good idea.
Might
So
as
let
well.
me try.
Why not? Yeah.
Okay, let's try.
I just
So
hope this link stays by the time we
yeah, yeah.
share it.
So hang on, I'll be right back. Wait.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I have shared it on Instagram. So let's
Awesome. Congratulations.
try to the inspiration, right?
Yeah, great. Okay. So just to start with the journey, I think it was actually around 12, 13 years ago for me. I was about 27, 28 that time. And it was, for me, it was a very sudden sort of bout of pain and nausea that happened. One evening, I was just at home. I was in Mumbai at that time. And we had, I think we had a sort of a family gathering a night before that, right? So I think there was a sudden nausea. I was vomiting constantly, but that vomiting was also coming because of the pain. Every time that pain would hit
Okay.
my innards, I felt nausea. So I thought initially maybe it's indigestion or something like that, but obviously it wasn't feeling like indigestion. And when it continued constantly for an hour or more than that, I knew it was something else. Also, the pain became worse, and it was so debilitating that I was on all my fours at the time. Like I could not even sit straight or stand straight. It was that bad. So I had to call my brother who lived close by at the time, and he had to come and pick me up. And I could not even go down standing. I remember locking the door of my house while I was on all fours and going to the lift crawling. It was very, very, very painful. And then having to walk, just even walking towards the car was absolutely excruciatingly bad. But then we managed to reach the hospital, and we reached the emergency ward of a hospital. I think it was after 8:30. So all the main doctors were not available at that time. Now,
Mhm.
the emergency ward had some new intern doctors or something like that. They took a sonogram and they just gave me a random diagnosis saying that, maybe you were pregnant and you had a miscarriage and some piece of the baby has remained inside you. And that was very bizarre because none of that had happened at all. But what
Right.
they had done was they'd managed to give me an injection by that time, a painkiller injection. So my pain had subsided. So I was at least able to talk. And they gave me some painkillers for home ki 4-5 ghante mein, you will feel the need to might take it again, so just take it. I went back. I felt like it's over, theek hai, pain tha, theek ho jayega kal tak. But at 3 a.m. again in the morning, by the time wo injection ka asar gaya, again the pain started, and with the pain the nausea happened again, and again I'm vomiting constantly. The
Mm.
moment I took the painkiller, it stopped. So next day I went to the physician. When the physician diagnosed me, she suggested that it seems like a gynecological issue. So why don't you go to a gynecologist? Luckily at that time my sister-in-law was pregnant and she was already consulting one gynecologist. So I went to him directly.
Mm.
And the moment he heard the symptoms, he immediately said, "This sounds like endometriosis. We will still do a checkup, but the symptoms are sounding very much like that. And let's see what we can do." Once the endometriosis diagnosis was confirmed pretty quickly after that, this doctor in particular was very, very good, very kind. I think he understood, there was a lot of empathy I got from him because I think he understood the pain and he did not treat it as a, like ये तो बहुत लोगों को होता है, like it's a normal part of, it's okay, like bear with the pain or something like that. He was very, very sweet to me, and he suggested a course of he put me on contraceptive pills because that's like the standard routine sort of medication for endometriosis, like initial, because contraceptive pills have a side effect of dissolving the endometrial cyst. So he thought that agar dissolve ho jata hai, so there will be no need for surgery, so surgery will be the last option. Let's just try and use other ways to do it,
Right.
because for I think most good doctors, the last recourse is surgery. They'll try and figure out other ways of doing it before cutting you open. So we
Right.
tried that for 6 months actually, but my pain kept getting worse every month, and to the point that even painkillers were not helping. I had to take injections every time I had my period. And in between the period time, hardly any time was left. You have PMS, and the PMS was getting worse because of endometriosis. Once periods came, the cyst feeds on menstrual blood. So the pain became so bad that I had to literally hold my stomach and walk around because I felt like something was really broken inside and congealed, and it just did not feel right. And
Yes.
then once periods ended, another week or 10 days were there in recovery. As if you're recovering from something, some sort of injury. So hardly a week in the month was left where I felt normal, and
Mm.
that took over my entire life for 6 months. So by the time 6 months ended, my pain was so bad that I remember just crying in front of my gynecologist, and he said, "Listen, if it's getting worse, let's not wait, let's go in for surgery." Which
Okay.
is when we did a laparoscopy. He did a laparoscopy, I didn't, and a hysteroscopy. He opened me up. And I think the good part was, I have discussed this with many other women after that, a lot of them only do laparoscopy. A lot of gynecologists just do that. But in my case, a hysteroscopy was done where he sort of flushed out almost every surrounding area just to make sure that there is no any remnants of any cyst left, because endometriosis, the worst thing about it, it has a way of recurring. So even if you flush out the cyst, it has a way of coming back if you have not healed entirely. So he did that. He flushed it out entirely. And soon after, I was put on Lupride depot injections, which cause artificial menopause. So at 28, I was going through menopause, and I felt like like a 50, 55, 60-year old. My knees were weak.
Mm.
All period had stopped. It was supposed to stop for 3 months, but the effect lasted for about 7, 8 months after that. So for
That's
8 months, I did not have my period at all, but my body started behaving exactly like a menopausal woman. And I remember I told you, right, my mom was going through menopause at the same time, and I would call her in the middle and say, did you have a hot flash? She said, yeah, even I had a hot flash. And we had all these very similar symptoms. So mother and daughter were going through menopause at the same time, and
mm.
it was hilarious. I mean, now to think of it, it's hilarious now. At that time, it wasn't. But yeah, and on the surface of it, I seemed very healthy. I seemed absolutely fine. In
Mhm.
fact, because of that artificial menopause, I had gained 10 kgs as well. I put on 10 kgs, so people thought I was actually being like healthier. By
Mm.
then, I had moved to Delhi, and in Delhi, the definition of healthy is putting on weight. Anyone who's put on weight is healthy and happy, and but nobody could, I think, see what was happening just under the surface, which was very painful. I was feeling very weak. I wasn't feeling nice about it at all.
Mm.
And then once the periods came back, that was the time the doctor immediately asked me to sort of, okay, now you conceive. Now you have to quickly conceive, because that will help you stop the period
Mm.
again, and the endometriosis will not be able to feed on the menstrual blood again, so it won't recur. So quickly get pregnant so as to stop the periods for another 9 months. But having come out from menopause, you can imagine going into the fertility, becoming young again, so to say, wasn't happening. My body wasn't ready for it. So it took my body a couple of more cycles, period cycles, to come back to start feeling normal again, which I actually felt pretty normal very fairly quickly. Within a couple of months, I was feeling like myself again. Everything was fine. I'd actually forgotten the menopause. I'd forgotten a lot of what happened before that.
Mm.
And another 2 months after that, I conceived normally without IVF. And yeah, now I have a 10-year-old child.
Oh,
So
that's
that was the medical journey part of it.
right.
Yeah.
Like when you and I spoke, we were also talking about the sense of guilt. Like a lot of women, particularly like with fertility issues, because you're a woman, you're supposed to be able to conceive naturally. You shouldn't be having problems with your reproductive health. There's a lot of stigma and like guilt that surrounds that.
Yeah.
So, how did you deal with that? Because I think, like, these problems are one thing. How do you deal with the physical pain? But like that emotional pain, because that has like long term repercussions also.
Yeah.
So, how did you deal with that? And yeah, were there any other factors that were at play, like besides the guilt? Was there something else also that you were feeling when you were
Yeah.
told IVF and all of that? Yeah, tell us.
Yeah, so actually the guilt was working at two levels. One, I felt like my body has failed me. I felt betrayed by my body, because I thought, oh my God, how have I fallen so sick? Because up until that moment, I was literally the kind of person who would not even have fevers very often. Like I would not have the flu. Very
Mm.
rarely I would fall sick. So for me to go into surgery, I just felt very. I don't know why, it was a very strange thought, but
Yeah.
I felt betrayed by my body. That I think my body has failed me. And because I was also always told that I was a very healthy child. Growing up also, I did not have many fevers. So I
Mm.
don't know that concept of how can I fall sick. I think
Right.
that was happening. And the second level of guilt was, of course, like you said, being a woman, and the fact that this had attacked the reproductive system itself. And I was told that I might possibly not be able to conceive. That was a huge shocker for me, because I think one thing I was very clear about since the age of 17, 18, 19 was that I wanted to be a mother. And
Mm.
I don't think I ever thought that there would ever be any problem for me, conceiving a child, or any kind of issues there. I just because I was also by my friends called very maternal. I always had that maternal instinct, constantly looking out for everyone around me. So वो जगत माता syndrome जो होता है ना, you're mothering everybody around you. So
Yeah.
and I also loved it. I also enjoyed it at that point of time, not anymore. But at that time, I used to love it. And yeah, I just thought that I will obviously become a mother and be a very nice mother. You have all these
Mm.
ideas and notions about yourself before you actually go ahead on that path. So yeah, the guilt was at that level because I was married for 4 or 5 years by that time, 4 years I think, and it was a normal time to sort of
Yeah.
conceive, expected time to conceive, and the age was also ki 30 se pehle ho jana chahiye, all those random ideas that keep floating for the longest time. So and from when I used to share about endometriosis with people, I did not share it with strangers, but usually people who were close. On the surface of it, everyone seemed like, yeah, okay, there was sympathy, but I think I did feel a sense of judgment. I also felt like the blame was sort of put, that there was a blame to it, and that it was put squarely on me, that maybe it runs in your family, maybe it's genetic,
Mm.
and that is why you've had it, because what else could be the reason for it? So I think at that time, when you yourself are feeling so much shame about it, when someone sort of puts something like that, it's amplified. The effect of it is amplified. When you're
Yeah.
happy, you don't really care what so many other people say around you.
Yes.
Yourself are feeling insecure and not okay about something. So it adds like it's ghee में वो आग में घी का काम करता है, वो ऐसी चीज, right? तो ऐसा कुछ हो रहा था, and then I think that led me, two things again happened. So that guilt was kind of huge, that I felt like, oh my god, this is never going to happen for me. uh, and that the good part about that was that sparked my curiosity. When someone pointed out that it must be genetic, there's no other reason for it happening, I started to read about it, also because my body was going through something so huge and I did not understand it. It felt very confusing and very scary at that time, because ye kya ho raha hai yaar? Every month you are in so much pain, and your life is suddenly ruled by it. And for
Mm.
you, for your partner, I was married at the time, so it just felt like your entire life was revolving around it, and
Right.
it was affecting the marriage, it was affecting everything else. So yeah, I started reading about it,
Mm-hmm.
and how it's done. So partly, of course, it's said that endometriosis is genetic, but then I started, which disease isn't genetic? Like, that's a possibility for every single disease on this planet. Everything is genetic. But
Yeah.
then there was no record in my family of any woman having endometriosis. So that was again a sort of a mystery, कि मुझे क्यों हुआ है? Why has it not happened to anyone but me? And that is when I started figuring out that environmental factors, of course, are responsible, which is where I started questioning myself, not questioning, but really understanding that we are all part of this environment. And the environment is not just outside of us, it's also within us. The environment that we create within us is also a huge part of, it's like an action reaction that is happening. What is
Mm-hmm.
happening outside and how we react to that. All of it is affecting us. And then I came across this very beautiful book. I've actually taken it out to show. It's called The Anatomy of the Spirit by Caroline Myss.
Mm-hmm.
I chanced upon this book through someone I know. And when I started reading about it, she has mentioned endometriosis or certain diseases of the reproductive organs. And when I started reading the reasons, every single reason that she has mentioned was happening in my life at that point of time. And suddenly, when you find answers to something that you're really looking for, I just held on to it like my life depended on it. And then everything that she said made a lot of sense, because what Caroline Myss has done has taken from multiple healing sources. She's a doctor herself, but she's also taken from Eastern medicine. She's taken from Indian, Chinese, and a lot of other holistic. She's given a holistic approach to medicine, and
Mm.
she's divided these diseases into chakras, like the first chakra, second chakra, which is in Ayurveda. It's already there, and she's borrowed that from Ayurveda and put it in a way which is brilliantly fantastic. And there, when she mentioned endometriosis, I realized, oh my God, all of that she's saying is applicable to me. And what she actually said was second chakra diseases were all about personal power and standing in your personal power and taking charge of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And when I compared it to my life, I started realizing that I was not just taking charge, I was trying to control too much in my life at that point of time. It was a difficult time for us in our marriage at that time. We had shifted countries. There were financial issues. There were a lot of other issues happening in our marriage, and because of all that upheaval, I was trying to control too much. I'd held on to the reins of my life so strongly that I forgot that it's sort of knotting up inside me and literally becoming a cyst inside, which I didn't realize. And once I sort of got that understanding कि ये मैं क्या कर रही हूँ, I sort of started letting go of the reins slowly. कि the control is taking charge is very different from trying to control every aspect of your life. Taking charge is about taking the actions, not trying to control the outcome of those actions. And that distinction was the first time I realized that distinction in my life at that age. So yeah, I mean, that guilt sort of took me on this path and
Mhm.
of finding out more. And that is when I sort of began to read more and try to understand what it was doing to my body. Yeah.
But I mean, like a lot of women feel guilty, but then a lot of women also just wallow in that guilt, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So, but in your case, like it gave you a sense of empowerment, perhaps, like it spurred you into action. So, what do you think it was about your situation, or maybe it was your personality, that made you say like no, the doctor's saying IVF, but no, because
Mm-hmm.
see, you were told that you would not be able to conceive after
Mm-hmm.
like the whole horrible journey. It was a harrowing journey where like first endometriosis and menopause
Mm-hmm.
and fertility. So there has to it was there something else? Like, I mean, your mindset, it must have been something else, not just the guilt, because a lot of us would just sit around like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, why me? But
Yeah.
you have to take charge. So do you think that's something that in the way that you are, or do you think was there anybody who was inspiring you to do this, maybe, or
Right. That's an interesting question. I think this is a question that I may perhaps never be able to answer because I don't know what spurred me into action, except the fact that I, for the first time, became curious about my body. I don't think, Pragya, that we think about our bodies unless something significant happens to us, especially when we are younger. Otherwise, for any woman to normally just think about her body is either when they're losing weight, when they have put on weight, and when everyone around them is like lose, 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 or when they're getting married, or when they're getting pregnant. That is literally the first time you start thinking about all the changes that are happening in your body, and you're fascinated by it. You feel it's all of it is magical, right? The other way when you get fascinated by your body is when any kind of disease strikes you, because you are also again looking at it as, oh my god, what is happening? This wasn't happening earlier. So why is it happening now? I think that curiosity about why it was happening to me, it was very important for me to find that answer, I feel.
hmm.
And I don't want to give it a positive spin in the sense of कि देखो जो भी होता है अच्छे के लिए होता है kind of a thing. This is not that, because at that time it was painful. I wasn't thinking about, oh my god, what is happening to me is going to be something really nice later. That's not the thought when something like that happens to you. So in that moment, it was just pain and just managing the symptoms and just figuring out how to solve the next month or how to navigate the next month. And
Hmm.
I think in that case, I was lucky because for me, the painful part of it was only 6 months. I know people who continue to live with endometriosis for the rest of their lives, and I don't know how they're doing it because
Hmm.
this pain is so debilitating.
Hmm.
I'll tell you where it first started for me. What sparked this, another reason that it sparked my curiosity was just a few days before this pain struck me, like literally 3, 4 days before, my
Mhm.
husband and my then husband, I'm a single parent now, but at that time I was married. We sat down and we decided that, we will not get pregnant for the next 5 years. We literally
Okay.
sat down and made that plan ki abhi we are not ready. And he knew how much I wanted to be a mother, and I was like, okay, yeah, right now our situation is not that comfortable. Let's wait for 5 years, and then aram se once we are ready, we will have a child. And within 3, 4 days, this pain strikes me. And the next day, the gynecologist diagnoses it as endometriosis and says, go and conceive a child right now. Like start right now. Because that is another thing they tell you. Even though it's a vicious circle, that you may not be able to conceive because of endometriosis, but by chance, if you are able to conceive, then it will help you sort of heal. It's a very vicious circle kind of a
Right.
cure that they
Yeah.
say.
That's
And I
22.
remember walking out of the clinic and
Mm.
I was in so much pain, but I laughed. I laughed out loud. I was like, here we are making plans about our life. कि हम ना ऐसे करेंगे 5 साल तक हम बच्चा नहीं करेंगे. And then suddenly this happens and the doctor is telling you conceive now. Suddenly it shifted my perspective and I said, who am I? Who do I think I am in sort of deciding or thinking that I am the one doing it all? I'm not. Like literally that was the first time I thought, okay, someone that this life is being lived through me. It's a very spiritual thought, which I kind of understood maybe even 10 years later than that. But
Mm.
in that moment, I realized separating myself from what I was doing. There was a sense of detachment from my life itself. That yes,
Mm.
I need to do certain things in order to live this life, but I cannot be attached to it so much that it causes me harm. That I'm at the cost of my own health. That
Mm.
cannot be the way to live. And I think that is when I started to find out कि ये क्या हो रहा है, ये क्यों हो रहा है. and
Mhm.
and there was no one else to talk about, so I relied on books, I relied on any information that was available. I lapped it all up, जो भी मुझे मिल रहा था, which is when I chanced upon this book and I found it. वो, how they say ना, you go looking for God, you'll find God
Yeah.
also. So I think when you are looking for answers, and I think that is something we all need to normally do, not just when disease strikes, but that is
Right.
something we need to ask questions about ourselves. Why am I taking this decision? Why am I doing what am I doing? Whether it's something small, something big, an everyday decision, I think we need to take out like 10 minutes out of our life every day and sit down and say, what is my body feeling today, or what is it feeling right now?
Mm.
I mean, I still skip it so many times, and you're tired, you don't want to do it. But I feel that every time I have done it religiously, it has helped.
Okay.
So yeah, I think inspiration, तो मैं नहीं कहूँगी, inspiration was curiosity. That's what
Mm.
it was, just to understand what's happening with me and nothing else.
So, see, another thing that I found interesting about your journey is that when the doctor was like, "Okay, now we'll do the surgery, the laparoscopic
Yeah.
surgery for
Yeah.
endometriosis," you were
Mm.
like, "Okay, let's do this,"
Mm.
because you were in so much pain.
Yeah.
But when the doctor said, "Well, IVF is the only solution for you,"
Mm.
then you stood up for yourself and you said, "No, I'm just gonna, go the
Yeah.
natural
Yeah.
way of doing."
Yeah.
So, why that shift? Like,
Why the
because
shift?
because the
Yeah.
doctor would know, like in our
Person.
minds, the doctors know
Yeah.
best.
Yeah.
So,
So I think there were two reasons. One, like I said, the way this particular gynecologist had approached the situation. I went to them. It's not like they said, "Oh, it's endometriosis. The only way to do it is surgery. So let's schedule it for next week, and you come and we'll operate." He did
hmm,
not do that. He sat
okay,
down. He explained to me what it was. He also had the time to, like I said, have empathy for me and my condition, and
right,
also then told me that we will try everything else before we go into surgery.
okay,
So, one, the trust was already established that this doctor is not looking for a quick fix solution. So,
right,
one, that was there. Second, like you said, the pain was so bad that I realized when the doctor said there's no other way now to control it except surgery, by that time, my trust with the doctor was immense. So, I wanted to address the pain. That happened. By the time when I came to that IVF part of it, when I had to conceive, I was in Delhi at that time. And this doctor, my first gynecologist was in Mumbai, but by this time I was in Delhi. I went to 10 different gynecologists, and the moment I mentioned the word endometriosis, they were like IVF. Like,
hmm,
even before I could finish the sentence, they would be like, oh, okay, endometriosis, let me write. IVF is the only way to conceive. So when the first doctor said it, I just got up. Like, I was like, no, I don't. Okay, fine, we'll come back. 10 doctors said that. Like, doctor after doctor after doctor said that. And
hmm,
finally, when the 12th doctor said it, I don't think there were any gynecologists left out of all the recommendations that I had received from friends.
yeah,
This gynecologist was in Gurgaon and she said IVF. I got angry at her. I remember being very angry because I think the shift happened because for 2 years my body had already gone through something which I did not know would happen after surgery. कि surgery के बाद artificial menopause होगा and menopause will mean this. By then my body had gone through and come back. It was like I don't know, going down completely down the road and then surfacing again. I was like, I am not ready to make my body go through IVF, which I know is again a very taxing procedure, like in mentally, emotionally, physically, also financially.
yeah,
And even if all other reasons are fine, I didn't want my body to go through something like so drastic again.
mhm,
I had the clarity for that because, like I said, the suffering was enough. And second, I was also very clear that for me, becoming a mother is important. How I become a mother doesn't matter. So I was very clear that I can adopt. I was absolutely clear on adoption, and had I not been able to conceive, I would have definitely gone ahead with adoption. There is no doubt in my mind about that. And at that time, also, there was no doubt. I had full clarity. So that helped me. When you know something, when clarity gives you the power to say no to something, I feel. When these two things in my head were clear, that's how I could stand up to the doctor and said, I don't want IVF. And she literally threw the papers. She said, then how will you conceive? I said, I haven't even tried to conceive naturally. She threw the paper in my hand and literally on the table. She said, okay, go try. And I don't know, it was weird. I took it upon as a challenge. I said, yes, I will get pregnant and come back to you. And next month, I don't know, as luck would have it, I got pregnant and I went back and threw the pregnancy test in her face. I was like, look, I'm pregnant. And, I know it's not anything, a kind of an achievement, but in that moment, it felt like such an achievement that, listen, it felt like I've proven you wrong. That I know you're a doctor, and yes, I respect every single thing you say. But no, in that moment, I knew that because of my clarity, I was able to take the alternative step. And this is also to clarify, there's nothing against IVF at
Yeah,
all. I mean, I hope people use technology in any which way they can to fulfill any dream that they have. That is the reason why we have it here. But
right.
like I said, it was a personal choice not to go through IVF because I didn't want my body to go through more suffering. Yeah. More
Yeah.
pain, more suffering, and more, that hope after that cycle. I mean, yeah, now I know what IVF is about. At that time, I didn't. But at least I knew that it will cause me more pain and suffering, which I didn't want to go
Yeah. Yeah.
through.
I think, I mean, when I conceived naturally after being told by every single doctor that it won't happen, it's not so yes, there is a sense of achievement, but then it's also a sense of empowerment. You feel like, okay, this is what I wanted, and I didn't listen to the first doctor who came my way,
Yeah,
or I cave into pressure, societal pressure, familial pressure, and
yeah.
like it's something that you really want and you get. I think that's
Absolutely. And to be fair to doctors, since I think we should also address that. I'm sure that in the cases that they constantly see is where women with endometriosis are unable to conceive. And perhaps that's what data has shown to them. And that
right.
is the reason they are responding like that. And for them, it's an everyday affair. So a lot of times they do tend to lose the empathy and do tend to lose sight of, okay, I'm sure it's possible to make that mistake when it's your job day in and day out and you're seeing some 10 women a day every day and so many of them going through endometriosis. I'm sure it's possible to have that diagnosis. Ki IVF is the only way. But
Hmm.
like I said, when you had clarity that that is not the way you wanted to go, and I had clarity, so that helped us in sort of sticking to what we
Yeah.
wanted. And as I said that if I had not been able to conceive, I would have tried for a whole year. If not, I would have happily gone and
Yeah.
put in my name for adopting a child. I still stand by that. Like that hasn't changed.
So I've come across a lot of women, who are going through the whole difficult process of IVF because even today, like
Mhm.
there is not not a very clear understanding of what that process entails. Like a lot of people think that it's assisted reproductive technology, so obviously you're going to get a baby,
Yeah,
and they don't understand the
yeah,
chances, especially
yeah,
like the old generation.
yeah.
Perhaps the doctors are not being clear about it to a lot of people, or maybe that's just how it's being projected.
Hmm.
uh, but I have come across a lot of women who are doing it like sort of against their will, because of
Oh,
the because of like societal
yeah.
pressure.
Family pressures.
Yeah, familial pressure also, because a lot of people are not open to adoption, a lot of people are not open
Yeah,
to surrogacy.
yeah.
um, so this is like and this is something that's really close to my heart, because as women, and because it's about you, your body, your health, I feel that women should have more say in a lot of sections of society. Women don't have so much of a say of what's happening. So for women like that, do you have any advice?
Uh, Advice is I don't know. It's a too highbrow kind of a word, but
Mm.
I think what has helped me on my journey is when I have learned to stand in my own power, when I have understood the best way. Like I said, clarity gave me the power to stand. When I know in my heart that this is the way, and I have found ways to sort of stand up for myself, that is when things have shifted around me in a very magical way, and
Mm,
without force and without effort and without any sort of animosity or hostility.
mm,
When I've learned to stand up in my own power and say that this is what I want. Most women, I think, especially of our generation, do not know what they want, because they have never questioned it. They have never even asked themselves. What they think they want is coming from a place of conditioning, which is first parental conditioning, and very quickly they have gone and gotten married. Like it happened to me from my parents' home. Then I quickly went to my husband's
mm,
home, and suddenly, that family's conditioning, sort of that environment conditioning happens. Now you're a daughter-in-law, you're not a daughter, so you're responding to a lot of other. We all know how that works.
mm.
And of course, like you said, family, societal pressures and everything, just being the idea of who I am as a woman, or what is a woman expected to do, these gender roles that
Yes.
tie us up constantly in these ki, I can only do this, or I am only allowed to do this, without saying we have that understanding,
Yeah.
without anyone enforcing it. We can say our partners are the best partners, or our families are the best family, they allow us to do everything. All of that comes down to such mumbo jumbo when you realize that no, we are stopping ourselves. And that is why this whole family or society is functioning, because we have already conditioned ourselves to not do a lot of things, to not raise our voices, to not stand up for ourselves. And I think my only suggestion would be question everything. Pragya, I had an incident when I think my son was in play school at that time. And, after dropping our children to play school, there were 10 of us sitting, just mothers hanging out for, just breakfast, because we had to go in another hour and pick them up. And on that table of 10, we suddenly started talking about how we conceived our children, like not how, but what, when, why did we decide to have children. And you won't believe, I was the only one on that table who really wanted to be a mother, who was very sure that I want to be a mother. Everyone else had become a mother because either there was family pressure,
Mm,
or there was age, biological clock ka pressure, ki I don't know, what if I want the baby later, because right now I don't want it. 5 saal mein chahiyega, to then I will regret it. So many factors playing. And I was shocked. I said I wanted to be a mother, and and once you have a baby, there are so many things you go through, so many emotions you go through, right? And I was like, it was such an overwhelming time for me. How did they deal with it when they were not even prepared, when it is
okay.
not even something they wanted? So
Mm,
I think that table became a microcosm for 9 out of 10 women did not conceive because they want. Yes, there was some vague idea of wanting to become a mother, but they did not have absolute clarity on that. And
yeah.
that shocked me, that scared me a lot. So
Mm,
imagine that multiplying in society. Like you said, so many women do not even have a say. So I feel first finding that footing. And a lot of people say, once you are financially independent, everything is fine. I don't think so. I've seen many financially independent women who are still subscribing to opinions of others around them. Financial independence does not.
yeah.
Freedom has to be in the mind. The choices that you're making have to be entirely your own. So I feel that if we question, why am I getting married? First
Mm,
thing, why do I need to get married? Is it to have it nowadays? Is it to have an Instagram worthy wedding just because I want to wear the clothes? Or is it because I should get married by this age? Or
mm,
maybe I found the person who I feel is ready. And, and these are because marriage ke baad, the next decision is a child. That
yeah.
will most definitely be the next decision you want to take. And that is
Yeah.
why I'm focusing on even marriage or anything else. Why am I taking this career? Why am I, taking any small or big decision of my life? I think that questioning, that self interrogation,
Hmm.
is important. And
Yeah.
it's essential to also be prepared to face the answers, because those answers sometimes are not very easy to face. They are looking right in our faces, and we are not ready to take the action that we need to take the steps that we need to in order to realize. So, yeah, I think that's a journey we all go through. And
Hmm.
I feel for me, endometriosis actually technically started that journey, because before that, I was also living like a zombie. I wasn't really questioning anything. But once this started coming in, and I realized, oh my God, the fact that this illness has come into my life, it's come in to show me that this is where my life is not working for me, or these parts of my life are not working at all. And I need to take charge. Yeah, that's where it began for me.
Okay, I love that. Like, basic, you faced something difficult. You faced a hurdle, a health hurdle, which is very
Yeah.
physical,
Yeah.
which propelled you into introspecting.
Yeah.
And that's where you got the clarity.
Yeah.
But you have to be brave to actually, face the result of that introspection. Okay,
Yes.
it was a whole
Yeah.
journey.
It was a series of incidents after that. A lot of introspection happened. Yeah.
Also, you
Yeah.
know, and I guess
Yeah.
with growth comes healing, and maybe that's what you experienced.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?
With growth comes healing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
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 Okay.
And
That's really nice. Is there any? I mean, I think this is the best place to like really end this conversation at,
sure.
because
Yeah.
we're tying the materialistic aspect,
Yeah.
or the external aspect of health with the
Yeah.
spiritual aspect. So that's
Yeah.
wonderful. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we
I
log
think
off?
I like I said, there was this one book, like I said, Anatomy of the Spirit. I would recommend it to everybody, whether or not you have endometriosis or not. It covers a lot of things. Even it covers any issue. I mean, after this book, I started looking at any minor headache or a lower backache, anything as something that is inviting me to question what is happening in my life right now. So I pause every time I have something like that. I'll pause and start questioning what am I doing, or what are my thought patterns like right now. So this
Okay.
has helped me a lot. And recently, this book called The Myth of Normal by Dr. Gabor Mate, he talks about a lot of illnesses that manifest as a result of childhood experiences, which is something so
Hmm.
suppressed in all of us. I feel like everybody should read this book, as it's called The Myth of Normal, and go through it to understand how your childhood impacts so much of what happens later in your life. I think it's an absolute essential read,
Okay.
including illnesses and including a lot of other mental and physical illnesses.
Okay. So I'll provide links to these books
Yeah.
also.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be amazing. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Rupal. This has been like a wonderful conversation, a really wonderful
Thank
conversation.
you.
And I hope that people who are watching and who watch it later on also, like especially
Yeah.
women who have endometriosis or any kind of fertility related, reproductive health related issues, I
Yeah.
hope I feel certain that they'll get something out of it, because you speak about empowerment, you speak about
I
clarity. So
hope so. I hope so. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Pragya.
thank you, Rupal.
Bye.
Bye.